And then the door opened, to reveal Father. He strode in, dressed all in black. She opened her mouth to speak, but the moment she looked at his face the words she had been planning died unsaid on her lips. Father's face was a frozen mask of bleakness, pale skin drawn tight over bone. Except for his eyes. His eyes blazed with one emotion. Black fury. She recognized that face. That was the face that Father used when punishing people who had committed terrible crimes, and all of a sudden she felt real fear. Father closed the door and then his hand shot forwards and pointed at the chair by her. "Sit." He said the word in a voice like iron and she hurriedly did as she had been commanded. Things were slipping out of her control and she was about to open her mouth to speak when all of a sudden Father drew a dagger from a sheath at his belt and then jabbed it, point first, into the table, before sinking into a seat of his own, his hand still curled around the handle of the weapon. There was a long moment of silence as Father seemed to suppress some violent emotion, his knuckles white on the pommel, and then finally he spoke. "I am now going to speak. Whilst I speak you will be silent. If at any point you make the ill-considered decision to interrupt me you will regret it." He looked at the dagger and then at her again. "Nod if you understand." Welcome to my channel. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and also click on the notification bell to remain updated. Suddenly terrified she nodded choppily. "All my life," Father went on in a low, hard voice, "I have worked with just one aim in mind. One constant goal. The restoration of our family to its proper place as the most powerful and influential house in the Westerlands, if not in all of Westeros. To that end I have done things that you cannot imagine. I have worked on a scale and at a pace that would bewilder you. I have praised fools and wise men. I have used cravens and heroes. I have killed and I have been merciful. And I had thought that all of that work had finally brought House Lannister to new heights. A new royal family. My grandson would be king after his father died." There was a creak either from the dagger handle or Father's fingers as they tightened around the handle again. "But now here we sit, in this room, at this time, and everything that I have worked for lies in pieces at my feet, smashed and broken." His free hand came up from his lap and he pointed his forefinger at her. "I gave you one task, just one. You were to marry Robert Baratheon, bear his children and achieve my ultimate goal of creating a Lannister-Baratheon dynasty that would outlast and outshine the Targaryens, so that if Aerys Targaryen could look up from whichever of the hells he's suffering in, he'd see what House Lannister, what I, had achieved and gnash his teeth in rage. Well, now. If Aerys can look up from wherever he's squatting and see me today he'd be laughing at me." The last 3 words were snapped out in a rising half-shout that made her lean back in terror. Father never bellowed. But now he was sitting there, visibly fighting to regain his composure. After a long moment Father composed himself again. "Because how was I to know that you had your own plan? If, that is, such a word can be used to describe the morass of selfish, squalid filth that you have been wallowing in for years. You decided that instead of bearing the king's children you would part your legs like a whore for your own twin brother so that the pair of you could rot like a pair of mindless animals. You would then pass any resulting children off as your husbands." Father's eyes seemed to blaze with new fury as they bored into her. The fact that this was treason, affecting the royal succession, never seemed to have bothered you. The fact that the children wouldn't have a single Baratheon trait between them, but be pure Lannister, also never seems to have bothered you. Perhaps you hoped that no one would notice the fact that your children would not resemble your husband in any way. Well, as you might have noticed given your current location, someone noticed. He hissed the last word in a way that chilled her. "Now," he said, speaking in a way that made it seem as if his words were causing him physical pain, "before you open your mouth and deliver a torrent of lies as you deny everything, I must first tell you that Jaime wrote out a full confession." Her heart seemed to stop for a moment in her chest. No. No, her soulmate would not have betrayed her like that. No. It was impossible. Father had to be lying. A confession that I have read. It made me want to vomit, and for the first time in my life I was almost glad that your mother is dead, because what I read would have broken her heart. The confession has been copied out, and those copies went out to King's Landing and other places days ago. There was another silence as he tightened his grip on the dagger yet again, before seeming to force himself to relax just a hair. So, what impact has your little plan had? We will get to you later. I know that you are a selfish creature, so we will look at the wider picture that would probably never otherwise occur to you. Let us start with your children. Tyrion once told me that one of your good points is that you love them. Well, your plan has certainly impacted all three of them. He leant forward slightly. They are all bastards born of incest. Those words will follow them for the rest of their lives. You might as well have branded the words on their foreheads. The glittering future that they had once is gone. They have been stripped from the succession. They are all hills. She stared at him in horror. No. They were royalty. Of course, father continued remorselessly, the fate of some of your children is easier to predict than others. Let us start with your oldest, shall we? Joffrey. You wrote so often to me about him, praising him to the skies, telling me how clever he is, how wise, how brave and how kind. I have spent some time with him today, and now I wonder who you wrote of, because I swiftly discovered that Joffrey is a stupid, foolish, craven and cruel boy. The thought of him on the throne horrifies me. The moment he saw me he ordered me, to call my banners, invade the north, rescue him, burn the north to the ground and kill every man, woman and child in it, and then take him back to King's Landing. He went on and on about it until I gave him the back of my hand and shut him up. I then took him rather firmly in hand. You might not know this, but a few days ago Joffrey got blind drunk and decided that the best was to ingratiate himself with me would be to kill Ned Stark's oldest son and heir, Robb Stark. So the damn fool tried to stab the Stark boy in the back with a stolen Valyrian steel knife, without any warning, at a time when Robb Stark was unarmed and alone. I cannot even begin to describe how foolish that was. Was Robb Stark dead? Surely the guards would have mentioned something about that. Perhaps it was a secret. Perhaps her revenge had already started. But then father narrowed his eyes a little. He failed. Robb Stark, despite his handicaps, disarmed and defeated Joffrey. Broke his nose as well. Oh, and he was kicked in the crotch by some wildling girl who happened to be passing. Now, normally an attack on the heir of any of the wardens of Westeros would normally have one conclusion, namely that of the attacker's severed head ending up on a spike. However, I have talked to Joffrey and then brought him before the king and Ned Stark, and the latter has agreed that Joffrey will not be executed. Instead, he will take the black. He will live on the wall, he will die on the wall. Given the list of his true attributes that I listed earlier, I doubt that the period between those two things will be very long, especially given the war that is coming to the wall. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and drop comments. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything.